Ryan Reynolds wants out of this lawsuit, okay? He is begging his wife to settle.
There are now reports coming in that Ryan wants to be less involved as well.
Taylor has distanced herself. It's very difficult for a husband to do that. But now the question to Ryan is, are you fake too? Are you a mean guy?
If this is true, and I'm wrong, and Ryan's now over it, while he was supportive publicly and privately, he wants to settle.
Ryan, being Ryan, has been managing the public aspect of things just the way you would likely expect. He's been doing those interviews where he speaks about how proud he is of Blake.
Spotlight obviously has its benefits, but it can be hard too. You and Blake for the last year and a half have gone through this very public legal proceeding. How have you guys managed that as a family?
You know, you really see kind of the illusion behind so much of this stuff, you know, digital life versus real life. Really, without getting into it too much, I'll just say I've never in my life been more proud.
On the surface, it's the type of supportive husband behavior. But behind private doors, Ryan is pressuring his wife really hard to simply settle this entire matter and be finished with it.
He's fully supportive publicly, but privately he wants this settled, especially now that he is a potential witness. Like, this is his worst nightmare. It's not just her battle. They are pulling him in. He knows it, and he does not want to be dragged.
Now, what would make him want that? I mean, if Blake is speaking the truth, if she's truly the victim here, shouldn't he be staying by her side? Well, the issue is Ryan has been listed as a witness in this mess, which means if this case really goes to trial in May, he could have to step up on that stand and answer questions about those texts where he was speaking badly of Justin Baldoni.
Trying to contact everyone he can at WME to tell them how horrible Justin Baldoni is. And this is so insane, you guys, thinking about it. You know, this is his wife's movie. He should have nothing to do.
The thought of being questioned over his role in this case, with his personal messages torn apart by attorneys possibly being painted as part of some sort of revenge plot, is career-ending stuff.
This is called pressure. This is called a power imbalance. This is Ryan now pressuring his agents to go pressure a producer, a female producer. Stop hiding. Blake feels alone. It's time we all stand up against this creep. And she doesn't want to. She doesn't want to. And he goes on and it's awful.
According to insiders, Ryan has been urging Blake to settle this whole matter without stepping into trial. He's not out there openly saying this, but behind private doors, he wants her to find some way to make this all disappear. He knows this situation is pulling him in, and he absolutely does not want to be dragged through a courtroom.
Reynolds wants Blake Lively to settle. He's afraid of having to testify. He's reportedly concerned that his wife will end up destroying him.
The contrast between what Ryan says publicly versus what he's reportedly saying privately is actually pretty shocking. Out there, he's doing these interviews about how proud he is and how much honesty his wife carries. Behind the scenes, he's watching the calendar move closer to May and feeling truly stressed about what's ahead. Reports claim Ryan is genuinely worried that this entire situation is going to ruin him, too. Ryan has built his whole career on being the guy who treats his fans like family. The thought of sitting in a courtroom being questioned about his private messages and whether he was part of his wife's alleged plan against Justin affects everything he spent decades creating.
Acting can overshadow all of the shit we've seen and read. Those text messages to his agents. That's it. Whenever you say, oh, maybe Ryan Reynolds is nice, I'm going to remind you about those text messages.
A lot of people believe this thing would have been resolved months ago. And everyone assumed both sides would eventually get tired of spending millions on attorneys and just figure something out, but that never happened. Instead, things have become bigger, messier, and tougher to manage. And that is clearly a nightmare for Ryan. He has spent his entire career avoiding this exact kind of public involvement. But right now, every interview he gives, someone wants to ask how Blake is doing and what he's planning to do. And every single day brings him closer to a trial where he may have to testify.
Lively wants her rich husband, Ryan Reynolds, to take the stand at trial to convince a jury about the damages that she incurred as a result of the dude from Jane the Virgin, Justin.
Now, while all this court drama continues to unfold, there's this entirely separate story taking place in the background. A Disney insider recently spoke with reporters about how this ongoing lawsuit battle has nearly damaged Blake Lively across Hollywood circles.
Reporting about Blake's, status in Hollywood. And they actually spoke to a source that they declare isn't just a source, but a Disney Studios executive who once worked with the actress and told the Daily Mail this lawsuit has ruined her in Hollywood. The truth is, she was never that popular. She had a reputation for being difficult. One of those toxic people who always think.
This is the harsh reality of how the entertainment industry really operates. They value reputation more than almost anything else. And right now, Blake's image has taken so much damage that studios are quietly trying to separate themselves from her as much as possible.
Now, mind you, this is happening as whispers from studio heads around town are getting louder and louder about the fact that Blake Lively and now Ryan Reynolds may be
That's brutal, but that's also the way Hollywood works. When you're hot, everyone wants to work with you. When you're not, nobody even acts like they care. In Blake's case, that situation has become basically a collective shrug from an industry that would rather work with people who don't carry this much drama.
Blake isn't getting the offers, and there hasn't been anywhere near the same interest in her since the Baldoni drama exploded. She's burned bridges, and most people in the industry seem to be steering.
Projects are quietly vanishing from her credits. Deals that once looked like certain things are simply not getting financed anymore. The offers that used to just pour in now require studios to make all these calculations about risk versus reward that they never had to consider before.
Back that now she's suffering reportedly includes no offers. Like the offers have dried up. No one wants to cast her right now.
And here's what makes this particularly hard for Ryan. His wife's troubles have basically become his troubles too. These two have been connected for so long, both in their personal lives and in business, that trying to separate their futures has turned out to be almost impossible. Every project Ryan takes on now comes with baggage about being linked with Blake. Every time he goes on TV to promote something, reporters instantly start asking about the lawsuit and what he's going to do. Every interview turns into questioning about how strong his marriage is and what he truly knows about all of this.
In bed, you can do all of the drop-offs, the pickups. Your beautiful wife can just take it easy.
I'd be happy to do that. I love doing drop-offs, pickups. That's my...
Many people are now asking a very serious question. Can Ryan shield himself from all the collateral damage coming from his wife's situation? The answer appears to be no. His own projects are facing scrutiny. His brand deals are being renegotiated with different terms. And that entire image he spent decades building, this picture of being that charming guy, is now permanently tied to a messy legal battle with Justin Baldoni.
Baldoni bought the rights not only to It Ends With Us, but I believe to the sequel and the prequel. And I think this whole thing is cooked up so that Blake and Ryan could get control of all three properties.
Wayfarer Studios, which is Justin's production company, just filed this motion that's meant to basically destroy her damage claims entirely. In case y'all don't know, Blake is claiming she deserves $160 million in damages because the alleged smear campaign damaged her career and her businesses. Wayfarer's motion is challenging both her expert witnesses and that huge dollar amount. Well, they're arguing that the financial losses she suffered came from her own business choices and poor management, not from anything Justin Baldoni or his company did.
Swiftly dropped by his agency WME and his production company Wayfair, retaliated with a blistering countersuit against Lively and Reynolds, accusing their team of attempting to torpedo her career and asking for attempting to torpedo his career and asking for $400 million.
This is a really clever legal move because it targets the case of money rather than morals. Even if Blake somehow proves every single remaining claim against Justin, she still has to show that his actions directly caused her financial losses. Wayfarer's motion is basically saying her businesses failed because she made poor choices, not because of Justin. Internal records apparently show that Betty Buzz, her beverage company, had serious operational issues going back long before this lawsuit ever began. We're talking about pricing problems, inventory management mistakes, basic business model issues that simply were not working. If Wayfarer wins this motion, Blake could end up in this really strange position. She might get a moral victory in court, right? She might prove that what she claimed actually happened. But then she still loses financially and ends up in a worse place than when she started. She's still stuck with all the reputational damage. She's still paying those huge legal fees and facing the career consequences. Those are permanent no matter how the case ends.
I talked to you the other day on this thing. If I were Lively, I would settle this case in a nanosecond because I think her claims are so bad. And I think that she's going to get, I think there's a strong chance she's going to get hammered on summary judgment if Lyman.
This kind of result actually makes settling seem much more appealing. And that's exactly why Ryan is reportedly pushing so hard behind the scenes to get this whole matter resolved before they have to go to trial. Because every day this drags out, the situation gets worse, the legal costs grow bigger, and the chance of something coming out that harms both of them gets higher and higher.
Exactly the same thing, and it's like I've been saying for a long time, the Lively attorneys are litigating this case like a bunch of divas. They make no accommodations. They have all of the grievances. They're constantly tattling on the Wayfarer parties, the Judge Lyman, asking for sanctions constantly because they're just a bunch of tattletales. That's what they do.
All right, so through all of this legal chaos, there's been this rumor that's just been circling around, and it turns out it's actually real. Ryan and Blake are planning to move to the UK. They've reportedly purchased a home in Barnet, which is this suburb on the edge of London. And here's the part, this isn't some fast decision they made, because they wanted a change. This has been in the works for months, maybe even longer.
The US for the UK is in headlines today, but I told you about it 6 days ago. But look at how they're trying to present it. They're saying that the couple is, quote, discussing moving to the United Kingdom. They're just talking about it. No, how about you actually bought a property there and you've been fixing it up in preparation to move there?
Now, for Ryan, this move makes a lot of sense. He's got those deep roots in Welsh football culture because of his co-ownership of Wrexham AFC. That soccer team has basically given him this whole new second life in the UK. The people there adore him. He could easily walk down any street in Wrexham and people would still treat him like royalty. The UK has basically become this safe refuge for him, where his public reputation is still completely intact and his brand still works extremely well. But for Blake, this is something very different. She's basically retreating from a battlefield where she got defeated. Hollywood has basically shut its doors on her. Her legal case keeps getting weaker. The whole public narrative has shifted against her in a major way.
Blake, what do you mean fleeing to the UK? Like, fleeing anywhere isn't going to help you. Like, stop running away from these issues. Settle it. Don't take this to court next month. I mean, I don't mind if you want to take this to court because, I want to be reviewing it as far as I'm concerned, but for your best interests.
The UK gives her something America can't offer her anymore. It's a fresh start somewhere people may not know every detail of what happened, or at least where it might not matter as much. She can rely on Ryan's local fame and popularity over there to sort of protect her from the worst of everything. Sources say they're planning to move once everything is finished, which basically means they expect the legal matters to wrap up somehow before they actually make the major move. That creates this really interesting situation with the settlement talks, because now both of them have reasons to want this case resolved fast.
And Ryan Reynolds have lost their spark and are fleeing to Europe as tonight a trial deadline.
Blake reportedly wants to restore her name as much as possible and relocate with whatever dignity she still has left. Ryan also wants to reduce the chance of having to testify and possibly hurt his brand. The question is whether they can actually reach terms that work for both of them. Can they walk away from this whole thing with both their interests somehow protected? That's the major question nobody can answer right now.
That Blake and Ryan are struggling, and they have done for years. Everyone is just waiting for them to get a divorce.
Now, throughout all of this, there's been this constant background talk about whether Ryan and Blake are even still together. I mean the pressure of this legal battle combined with the fact that they clearly don't agree on strategy and risk. Some people believed there was no way their marriage was surviving this. There have been all these rumors about arguments over how to manage everything. And honestly, some people were basically predicting divorce was unavoidable. It had seemed like a reasonable conclusion given how messy everything's become. But here's what the sources are saying. Divorce is not on the table. They're still together. They're still showing this united front in public. They're still planning their future around moving to the UK together. That's not changing.
This is what Hollywood couples always do when they're on a brink of a breakup. They plan stories of how happy they are together.
So, does that mean their marriage is completely harmonious and they're on the same page about everything? Of course not. The fact that he's secretly begging her to settle while she publicly doubles down on fighting shows you they're not exactly aligned on strategy or risk tolerance. But they have chosen to go through this storm together rather than separately. And that decision, while maybe noble, brings with its own set of problems. By staying publicly on Blake's side, Ryan has essentially tied his fate to hers in ways that are going to be very hard to untangle. If her career keeps declining, and honestly it probably will, his will face similar pressure. If the trial reveals information that damages her reputation, some of that damage is going to splash onto him, whether he wants it to or not. They made the choice to stand together. But that choice also means there's no clean exit available to either of them now. They're in this all the way to the end, whatever that end looks like.
This lawsuit's unfurling, we're discovering it was Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively were really bullying Justin. The entire Nice Pool character was just made to mock Justin. This makes me like the film less. This is such a disappointing thing to see. It's so petty. From
all of this situation places Ryan Reynolds in a position he never expected when he initially came out publicly supporting Blake here. I believe he truly did think in what he was doing. He wanted to be that husband, the one who stands by his wife no matter what. But that isn't what he received from his wife's side. What he received instead was pulled into this legal nightmare trying to expose everything he's worked so hard to keep private. There his messages, his emails, his business dealings, his involvement in all of the things that happened on that film set.
a lot of things Mr. Reynolds said that I never shared with anybody outside of my wife. It was extremely humiliating, embarrassing.
The move to the UK is interesting too, because it's not just about Ryan's soccer team or Blake wanting a fresh start. It's about both of them needing distance from an industry that has basically judged them and moved on. It's a place where maybe, just maybe, their reputations could get reassessed. But let's be real here. That move is also an admission of defeat. They're leaving because staying became impossible. They're relocating because the rooms that once welcomed them with open arms have now been closed.
How's it going?
Great. Why? What have you heard?
So, here's the actual story behind all the headlines. It's not a fairy tale about a husband standing by his wife. It's a story about Ryan watching his entire legacy get threatened by association with a case that keeps getting messier by the day. And it's a story about Blake fighting for an agenda that gets harder and harder to sustain with every legal setback she faces. Neither of them knows how this story ends. But here's what I do know. This entire situation is a masterclass in how quickly everything can fall apart when you try to claim something which is not yours. In this case, it was Justin Baldwin's movie, It Ends With Us. What do y'all think about all this? Do you think Ryan's right to push for a settlement, or do you think Blake is pushing him in a difficult spot? Drop your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more.